And good morning and happy holidays to you. Myself, Tim, RJ, from Miss Willis, everybody here at the station of WHPR TV. We all want to wish everyone a happy holidays and happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate during this time of the year. We want to wish you happy holidays, and definitely going into the new year to have a very joyous and prosperous new year. You're watching us live today. We are Truth to Power, and I've got a phenomenal lineup of guests today. My first hour of the show, we're going to talk a little bit of politics. And, I was talking to one of my guests this morning when we first were waiting to go on air, and we were talking a little bit about, does it seem like Christmas? Does it seem like the Christmas season? And I think that as we, look at the last few days of this year, we have no snow on the ground. And from listening to the weatherman this morning, all the weatherman was steady saying is we got nothing but rain coming. I hear temperatures are supposed to be up in the 50s. So, we can't get any snow if the temperature's up in the 50s. But, we'll talk a little bit about that, but we're going to talk a little bit about politics. I think one of my guests had an interesting perception about why a lot of people may not be as celebratory during this Christmas season right now. And it could be as a result of how the election turned out. But without further ado, I do want to bring my two guests in. My first guest, I'll go ladies first, being the gentleman that my father always taught me to be. I'll mention my first guest. And when you think about the city of Highland Park, she needs no introduction. Everybody in Highland Park knows who she is. Everybody loves her. Everybody respects her. And when you say the name Alexis Ramsey in Highland Park, you can't do anything but put a smile on your face when you say her name. So again, Alexis Ramsey, I think probably all Highland Park, former school board chair, for president for the Highland Park School Board. She's also the first vice chair of the Michigan Credit Party Black Caucus. And Alexis probably has too many other titles, but the main title that Alexis has, and it's not a title, it's a labor of love. And that is, she is a daughter of two wonderful people here. And I don't want to say the wrong names, but I'll just say, I know they're the Ramseys, and I'll let Alexis say her mom and dad, mention them, on the air today. So Alexis Ramsey, I'll let you go and give a shout out to your mom and dad this morning.
Oh, absolutely. Just shout out to my parents, Thomas and Julia Ramsey, lifelong Highland Parkers. My father and my mother both served on commissions here. So, it's a legacy that I hope that I can live up to, and the work that they did throughout the community to keep us together. So, shout out to my mom and dad. Both of them are healing right now, from major surgery. So, just love them to death. And, that's my pride and joy. So.
And I also would be remiss if I didn't mention too, I saw the post that Ken Whitaker, had put out on Facebook about the loss of one of your, the matriarch, I believe.
Matriarch of the family. Mm-hmm.
But, definitely we want to extend our condolences to you and and your family.
Absolutely.
During this time.
Thank you.
This is tough, especially during this season.
Absolutely.
And so again.
But she's 101, so you look at the fact that, when you look at the legacy and the life that someone lives, you just give honor to that she was allowed to see 101 years on this earth. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And the other guest that I have on the show, he's also probably not one that you need to mention and somebody ask you who, because everybody, when you say this man's name, especially in the Oakland County area, absolutely, they say, I know him and I respect him. Mm-hmm. And whether or not if you like or you love him, you respect him. And that's the important part. And I know I promised his wife that I would make mention of her name. She's also well known in the many different organizations and circles that she, is in Oakland County, as well as in the 12th Congressional District. And her name is Miss Sharon Person. I'll let you say her name because you probably say it with a lot more feeling than what I said. So, you'll put baby and other terms of endearment when you mention your wife's name. But I also have none other than Mr. Joseph Person on the show with me this morning.
I'd like to say, I love everybody. I love this country. But let me throw the shout out to Mrs. Person. She's the better half of the persons. As you said, whether you like me or love me, everybody respects me. Some of the people fear me because I actually do what I say I'm going to do. You know how I'm from that era of Muhammad Ali. You know how Muhammad Ali would tell you he going to do something and then go do it. I tell you I'm coming for you, then I go do it, because you cannot be playing in politics. This is serious. This is our life. And as you said, the lady to my left, Miss Alexis Ramsey, when I became a member of the Michigan Democratic Party Black Caucus, Miss Ramsey reached out to me and said, hello, took care of me, has made sure that I'm in the circle, I'm in the loop. That's what leadership is about. So for me coming over here, and ladies and gentlemen, I've only been a Democrat for 8 years. Okay. Prior to that, I was a Republican, not one of those. I was part of the Republicans that actually did something with Democrats. We might fight and fuss all day long, but at the end of the day, we did something for the community. And when I came over here, I said, okay, let's see what's going on. So I found out, I met Miss Alexis Ramsey along with some other great Democrats, and we've been forging ahead. And the work is just beginning. It's just beginning, especially with this loss we just had.
Yes,
Yeah.
talk about it.
And let's talk about that for a little bit. We experienced something that we were on the cusp of a lot of things. We were on the cusp of having our first African-American female to sit in the Oval Office. We've had a lot of firsts, from first African-American Supreme Court Justice. Even in the city of Detroit, we may be on the cusp of another first, having our first African-American female mayor of the city of Detroit. So, there's a lot of firsts, but we had that first that everybody was concerned about, whether or not if we were going to have the first African-American female president. And, regardless of how people felt about what happened with Biden, whether or not Biden shouldn't have stepped down or should have stepped down, whether or not if Vice President Kamala Harris had enough time, in the 107 days to campaign, for that seat. But, regardless of what happened, we have a return of President 45. And he's going to be President 47. So, like him, love him, revere him, hate him, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. He's the president.
He's going to be the president.
Absolutely.
He's going to be inaugurated on the 20th of January. And we hope and pray for the country, that everybody will be healed and be in the process of being healed, healing, regardless of what happened and who they were supporting on November the 5th, in the election. But there's a lot of political pundits, and I look at the two of you that say, hey, why the election was won by the Republicans. But let me get your thoughts. Alexis, I'm going to still go to you first, okay. Female, and you've been on the show with me multiple times. Joe, I hope that you will come back again, on the show as well.
Okay.
But Alexis, your thoughts?
Well, I think we threw Madam Vice President out there in 120 days, and I think that we did a disservice to her as a person, as a candidate, and what she served here in our country, and how she served in our country. I honestly, I don't think that 100, the votes were not there, right? Like, let's just call it what it is. Let's not sit here and just try to make it seem like, we had the momentum right at the beginning, but there was just really no way for us to catch up with a person who was out here 2 years prior to, or even that, how about I doesn't even say 2 years? This man started running in 2015, right? And he never stopped running. So when you say, hey, what happened? Where did the breakdown happen? And then Mr. Persons and I also talked about this. I don't think the military, it's not that I don't think, I know the military would have never elected a woman president. Unless that's a conversation I don't think we're willing to have or have had about that military vote. And they don't believe that a woman should be the commander in chief of our country. And so I don't think it rather was Vice President Harris. Had it been Governor Whitmer, it would not have mattered. It's a woman. And I think we have to or Hillary Clinton, right, who actually lost. So we don't factor that part of that vote in. A lot of times we talk about the African American vote, African American male vote, African American woman vote, white woman, every other every other culture. But we don't talk about that 2.5 million votes
in the military.
Absolutely. That make a difference in the outcome. So when we talk about Vice President Harris, again, I think it wouldn't matter what she did. She would not have pulled that 2.5 million, which ultimately creates that swing. Out of that 2.5 million, I think she got about 400,000 votes. And so we're looking at it. We forgot to calculate that part in. Well, so that's where we are.
Aside from that, I always tell people, I get that was nationally, okay? I'm interested in the state of Michigan. And what I saw on the ground, Democrats did not show up. I can start with Southfield Lathrop Village, where I'm one of the chairs. I'm the chair of the Southfield Lathrop Village Democratic Club. We delivered 84.1%, 84.2% in Lathrop Village for Kamala Harris, and 84.1%. That wasn't done all over the county. That wasn't done all over the state. The trifecta that they talked about, Governor Whitmer, Governor Whitmer, Dana Nessel, and Jocelyn Benson, we didn't see them out there like we should have. The governor was all over the country. And then when I finally saw them, it was later. On the ground, while I was out there in the streets canvassing, I saw plenty of people from, not Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, black folks that were canvassing, being paid $2,500 sign-on bonus, plus $150 to $200 a day to get out there and work. And another, if you were a supervisor, $250 to $300. Yet, I waited for 2 months. After she came here, we got some yard signs. After that, I had to end up waiting 2 months. When we finally got some money, it was 2-3 weeks
prior to the
election.
campaign.
So how can you win if you do the same, you use the same playbook and expect something different? Democrats did not campaign, and I told people they didn't work. When I came over here as a Republican, the same thing then that I saw then. I went to the Oakland County Democratic Party. I went to the State Central Committee meetings. I went to the 14th Congressional District, and I came home within 2 months. I told my wife, I said, you know what, I'm going to be running some of this. And she said, how can you say that? I said, Democrats don't do no work. A lot of them were lazy, and that's what I saw. They went back to lazy. The ballot initiative of women's reproductive rights was not on the ballot now. So white women in the state of Michigan didn't have the same incentive to come out. Nobody will come out for black issues. Kamala Harris was a black issue, a black woman. They didn't come out. If they had to come out, I wanted her to win the state. I get the other 50 states in the territorial, but she should have won the state of Michigan if the Democrats had did what they were supposed to do. That didn't happen. So we're sitting here now, oh my God, what is Trump going to do? First of all, as Alexis had said, the man negotiates. He negotiates 24 hours. Some of the things that he says he's going to do, he's not going to be able. Legally, he can't do it. And I do not believe this U.S. Supreme Court. They crazy, but they ain't stupid. Okay, they're not going to go along with some of the shenanigans like he wants to get rid of the U.S. Constitution. It's not going to happen. Only way you can do that is declaring martial law. And the police and everybody around the country, and I'm connected to some of the police departments, they're not happy with him winning, but they're not going to let chaos ensue because maybe some people who voted for him want to get out and do some things that are not productive, that are counterproductive to this U.S. Constitution. I spent a lot of years fighting for this Constitution. I believe in it. It's the Constitution that enslaved my people and brought them over here. It's the Constitution that that didn't allow white women to vote, killed the Indians. We could go on and on and on with the things that were done under this U.S. Constitution. But it's the same U.S. Constitution that gave me the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. It's the same one that gave white women the 19th Amendment. So let's not sit here and pretend like some things are just going to happen. I just think at the end of the day, we as black folk need to, okay, this happened. What do we do here? What do we do now? What is the now? For us in the African American community, my now is save some money for the next 4 years. Don't go out and spend and get crazy because you don't know what the market's going to do, how it's going to, fluctuate. You don't know what's going to happen. So I said, okay, I'll save more, spend less.
Well, and the thing you brought up a point too, in terms of I was looking at the news yesterday and they were talking about Social Security benefits may increase, and they're talking about with the cost of living, that may be something where you might get an additional $50 for those that are on Social Security, per paycheck, per check. So everybody was concerned about Trump eliminating Social Security. They were concerned about some of the other things that they were feeling like, but we're not hearing that. But the one thing that was interesting, I looked at the news and they were talking about Trump wants to annex as the 51st state Canada, and
He did.
And I was like, wow, this is a lot right here.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to that negotiation tool. Right?
Exactly.
This is what he does, right? Yeah. This is how he negotiates. This is how he was able to get Trudeau, right? When he said, I forgot exactly what he said. It was something along the lines, it was dealing with some type of funding or something. I can't really remember. But the next day, he was on a plane. Prime Minister was on a plane to Mar-a-Lago to sit down and talk to this man. You understand what I'm saying? So when we think about Trump, we have to remember that he's coming from the business sector. Right. He's not coming from this political sector. He's not coming from
he doesn't care about
the establishment, right? He's not coming from that. He's a businessman and he knows key words and key things to say to bring you to the table in order for us to get the results that we need as Americans. Right. Now, again, I'm not a Trump's fan, right? But I'm not against him either, right? If that makes sense. I understand what he's doing because I'm not against an America First agenda. And maybe if we as Democrats would get on an America First agenda and really stop talking about you brought up a good fact of it wasn't about reproductive rights this time around.
Right.
Right. If the campaign only harnessed in on middle class America, right? Well, you got poor, you got every type of American there is. So again, the messaging was off when it came to how we portrayed our candidate and the things we had her out here saying. And then you had Trump saying, this is about America. I don't care who you are, what color you are. This is an America First agenda. And as long as you are an American, you're who I'm fighting for.
And a lot of people that I talk to, Democrat, Republican, Independent, one of the other things that when they said America First, and I'm going to go here because everybody's scared to touch this, the LGBT plus community. Down in Georgia, where my daughters and my granddaughter goes to school, she was 8 years old at the time, she's 11 now. They wanted to talk to her she's 8 years old in her little class, so that would be the third grade, I believe. 8 years old, third grade. They wanted to talk about the LGBT. And it got shut down because the parents said, wait a minute, my child, my granddaughter, whatever, does not need to talk about the LGBT community. A lot of us jumped out and made sure that we pushed that on folks. There was a movement of coalition that I saw out there in the street. Cause see, like I tell people, when you canvass and you be out in the streets, knocking those doors, talking to people, they really tell you who they are. And believe me, when people tell you who they are, that's who they are. They were for, let me tell you the biggest complaint I had against Kamala Harris. I'm for her. I want her to win. But I don't know, looking at me sideways, this LGBT, this transgender thing, well, what they didn't know, and I think that Democrats should have pushed back on that transgender situation that was happening in the jails where you could get the change and everything. That was the Trump administration that did that. That wasn't the Obama administration or the Bush administration or the Clinton administration. That was the Trump administration. So I'm sitting there saying to myself, why didn't y'all push back? Again, as Alexis said, it was about the messaging. But people tell me things on the street that they won't say in a studio. They won't say at a Democratic convention, at a Democratic meeting. Everybody wants to be nice. It's time for us to stop being nice, like Alexis said. Let's do the real messaging. And if we're going to be together in the big tent, it needs to represent all of us. Since I've been a Democrat, 8 years, ladies and gentlemen, it has always been about either an LGBT thing or a white woman's thing. They don't talk about our voting rights. Everybody should, for example, the Michigan Democratic Party, we should have a proclamation that's about the John Lewis bill. We should have a proclamation that's about our voting rights. Every 4 years they have to renegotiate the Voter Right Act, I believe it is. Right. It should be automatically enshrined. I love what the LGBT community went after their rights to get married. They didn't go after civil rights. They went after constitutional rights. That's what we got to do. So they got to do a better job of messaging, but they got to include us, because as a black man, if you look at my receipts compared to a lot of my other Democratic chairs, they can't even come on the same street, the same block, round the corner, down the street. But yet these are the ones that we promote. You know why? Because they are who we get along with. They don't do any work. If you look at the record, I'm just calling it like I see it. If you look at the record of even the black leadership that represent us, look at their records. People are talking about Congressman Rashida Tlaib. Congressman Rashida Tlaib, when you look at her receipts, whether you like her because she was pissed off about what was happening in the Gaza Strip, she's done more for a lot of our Democratic clubs and brought money in here, not just the clubs, but in the community, than the last 2 or 3 U.S. congressmen that represented me.
You know, you bring up a point too, and I want to kind of get our viewing audience to hear this. What is the difference between clubs, like you were saying about mentioning the Democratic Club? What is a Democratic Club?
Okay.
Then tell about the club that that you chair.
Ladies and gentlemen, I actually chair the Oakland County Democratic Black Caucus, and I'll tell you the difference between a caucus, a club, and the party. The club are the locals. That is like the Southfield Lathrop Village Democratic Club, the Royal Oak Democratic Club, the Pontiac Democratic clubs. We're all clubs. That's the local club. So we more or less deal with the local politics, the mayor, the city county, the county commissioners, the city clerks, so forth and so on. Now, when we get to the county, which is the Oakland County Democratic Party, we basically deal with the situations that are happening at the county exec, the county commissioners, exactly, the county water commissioners. Then when we get to the district, okay, like we have the 12th district now, the 13th district, 1 through 13, we have 13 districts. We deal with district problems, but see, in the district encompasses the county, or the county encompasses the district, but the district is always covers so much more.
With your congressional leaders, right?
Yeah, because this is the congressional leaders. These are the people that the congressional district that represent us in Washington, D.C. Whereas that the local folks, the Democratic Party, the Democratic clubs, that's just locally at the city level. Then the district level, as we said, that is who is going to represent us in the U.S. Congress. And then we got, like I said, the Democratic Party. That is the State Central Committee. That's what it's the Michigan Democratic Party, but you belong to the State Central Committee. They're the ones that write up all of the rules that govern the districts, the counties, and the local clubs and the caucuses. Now, when you get to the caucuses, such as I'm the chair of the Oakland County Democratic Black Caucus, Miss Alexis Ramsey is the first chair, statutory chair of the Michigan Democratic Party, Michigan Democratic Black Caucus. She represents all of the black organization, all of the black caucuses across the state.
Hold that thought, because we got to take a quick break.
Okay.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. You're watching Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, with Joe Person, Alexis Ramsey. We'll be right back.
Saturday afternoons at 12 p.m., followed by Mr. Smooth's Ballroom and Steppers Express Dance Show on WHPR 15.2 Detroit, Apple TV, Roku, and many streaming platforms. See you Saturday.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Maureen Jackson thought she had it all until she was faced with the challenges of raising an autistic child. Inspired by autism is her brutally honest journey filled with heartbreak and triumph. Get your copy and find the support you deserve today by visiting www.claudrinejackson.tv.
TV 33 is moving to WHPS TV channel 15.2. Make sure to rescan the channels on your TV. Then go to WHPS channel 15.2 to pick up TV 33 and all of your favorite shows. The move is on, and we want you to move with us to WHPS channel 15.2.
Good morning, and you are watching Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and I have my special guest today, Ms. Alexis Ramsey and Mr. Joe Person. But before we went on the break, we were talking a little bit about the Michigan Democratic Party and looking at the difference between the chair, the caucus, the clubs, as well as the other, entities that exist, throughout Oakland, Wayne, Macomb, and other, places. But let's look at tackling in on you mentioned about State Central.
Yes.
And I know, Alexis, you and I, we talk about State Central all the time. Joe, you just mentioned about State Central. Explain to the average layperson, when you say the word State Central, what do you mean when you say State Central?
Okay, State Central Committee, these are the folks that are elected from that are precinct delegates or the representatives from the 13 districts. What happens is we have an election, which we have every 2 years, uneven year, and we elect slates to represent us at the State Central Committee. For example, I'm on the 12th Congressional District slate. So I represent the 12th Congressional District at the State Central Committee. So when we go on there, I vote based on what it is that the 12th Congressional District want. But what has happened is that when people get on these committees, a lot of folks are just there in name only. While you mentioned that I wear a lot of hats, you can actually go see some receipts that I'm actually doing some work. A lot of people be on a lot of committees. They'll be at the local club. They'll be at the county club. They'll be at the district. They'll be at the local club, the county party. They will be at the State Central Committee. They'll be at the 12th Congressional District or the Congressional District, but they don't do anything. It can't be that way. You need to be doing some work. So as I was saying, going back to my point that I was making just before we went to a commercial break, in the congressional districts, the people that represent us right now, Rashida Tlaib in the 12th Congressional District, she is awesome. It doesn't matter whether you like her. See, Darwin, I'm a firm believer. I don't have to like you and you don't have to like me. We may never go out and have a drink or eat dinner. But if you do the work that needs to get done and somebody comes to me and say, Joseph, are you going to go, you want Darwin Griffin in? Yes, he does the work, but I thought you don't like him. What that got to do with I don't like him? Does he do the work? Mm-hmm. What you're doing here right now, and thank you so much for inviting me. What you're doing right here is one of the greatest things that you can do as a public servant. Educate us. Get the information out. Let's talk about subjects that people don't want to talk about. So getting back to the State Central Committee, they're the ones that makes the decisions for all of us. They have a set of bylaws that all of us come up under. One of the things that's important, for example, Alexis, who is the statutory chair of the Michigan Democratic Black Caucus, she's a female. Well, one of the main rules of all of these organizations that's up under the Michigan Democratic Party, that if you have a male that's the chair, the female will be the opposite sex.
They understand creating that balance.
Yeah, right? They understand exactly. They understand.
That balance, yeah.
Okay, so that's the way it is. For example, my chair, whether it's the Oakland County Democratic Black Caucus or the Southfield Lathrop Village Democratic Club, is a female. After that, you can bring in anybody you want, but the main two have to be male and female or opposite gender. Mm-hmm. So getting back to the MDP, the State Central Committee, they are the ones that they select, for example, and I'll never understand this, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the State Supreme Court. I'm trying to understand why we can't have a primary, because some of these folks that the Michigan Democratic Party give us, that's not my choice. Give me a choice to fight, and I'm going to tell you, it was a shock to me.
Well, let's just
what's his name, Miles, that ran?
Which one?
That ran against Dana Ness.
Oh, yeah, Miles. Oh, he was a great guy, too.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about
Pat Miles.
Pat Miles.
Yeah, Patrick Miles.
Yeah.
When we went to the State Central Committee, and that was my first time dealing with that, I was okay. I said, okay, she won this. I'm thinking that we're going to the primary. I didn't know. I thought the convention was just a part of this. They said, no, Joe, this is it. I said, wait a minute. So if he doesn't win here, he's out? They said, yes. That, folks, that is wrong. We should not have it where we go to a convention and a few people. I'm on that committee.
Well, I'll say this, though. That's why I think people don't really understand why precinct delegates are so important.
Right.
Right? Because when you elect your precinct delegate in your community, you're representing them to go to State Central or go to the convention on your behalf to now vote for who will be your attorney general, your Secretary of State, who's going to become the governor, states, you look at state school board, right? State board of education. You look at your board of regents. So again,
Trustees,
everything, right? So you have to get back to understanding when you elect that person from your community, you're saying, hey, you are down here on the ground talking to the people. You understand what we want, and we need you to now go fight at the convention for the candidate of our choice. So again, each one of these positions play a key role in how we move politics or move people or move nominations within the state of Michigan, right?
It's so funny because Alexis and myself and Darwin, we agree a lot on the same things. Mm-hmm. There's sometimes how we get there, but one thing about it, I don't have to question the loyalty of us, this particular three ladies and gentlemen in this room. I don't have to question us. There's some others I'm like, okay. But at the end of the day, we can talk to each other, whether we agree or disagree. Mm-hmm. We get the work done. At the State Central Committee, it is about who I am, who I know. But I always ask the question, what receipts have you done?
Absolutely. Where's the work?
Where's the work?
What can you produce?
What can you show me? And when I look at somebody's resume, I said, I sent my resume to somebody to show them, this is how resume from start to finish. This is when I started it. This is when I finished it. Your resume says you helped to put some clothes out because people needed some clothes. But you did it that one time in 2020.
When it was time for the election, when you were running.
When you were running.
There you
go. Right. You came and did this. And here's the other thing. Folks come to me, and here's the thing. When I need money for whatever the program is, I don't have a problem getting it. I pick up the phone and say, okay, you said, and we got it in black and white, and we got it recorded. You said that you're going to support us. And I always ask, what does support mean? I don't need lip service. Mm-hmm. Well, so what I tell people, let's say I had a program, I needed $5,000. I pick up the phone and call 10 people. I said, I need each of y'all to give me $500. Well, I don't want to hear, only thing I want to hear is, yes, I either got it or when can you give it to me? Because here's the thing, what I do, ladies and gentlemen, do this. If they're elected official in Oakland, Wayne, Macomb, the 83 counties, go look at their financial report. Mm-hmm. When you look at that financial report and you see that they got tons of money. Well, I can pick up the phone and say, Senator such and such, Congressman such and such, State Representative, I need such and such to do this. And guess what? And do not allow them to say the check is in the mail. I have two things. Everybody knows that, as you said in Oakland County, put the check on my front door or leave a check on your front door. I'll come by and pick it up. I do not play this. I'll send it to you because you'll be waiting and your lights will get cut off. Whatever the program is that you're trying to facilitate will not happen. So that's why I say, as Alexis had said, we have to represent. And the other thing is, as a precinct delegate, I don't work for you. I pick and choose what it is that I want to do. Mm-hmm. I represent precinct 29. And by the way, I can't stand this. I have to say this. The wife always gets more votes than me, and I'm out there canvassing and working hard. And she just mops the floor with me. We're from Precinct 29 in Southfield, and we represent Precinct 29 particularly. People say, well, we should go and just work for them, and we work. No. If they paid the precinct delegates, absolutely, because it's an elected position just like everybody else, you would get so much more done. This thing of where we beg, have to ask you for some money, and we're waiting. Kamala Harris lost this election in the state of Michigan because they did not give the precinct delegates any money to get out there and work for her. When we go to the conventions, it's everybody and their friend that knows somebody, but the people who do the real work, they're not there. And then the slate, let me tell you, I got on the State Central Committee because the unions and everybody picks the people that they want. I told them in the 14th, I said, no, you not. They were telling me, Joe, well, you and Sharon got the weight. I said, no, I went on and put my machine together and I needed 61 votes. I needed 60 votes, got 61. and I got on the state central committee. After that, they leave me alone. They automatically put Sharon and I on there, and I tell them, you will not put us at the bottom because it's done proportional voting. So if the person
Now explain it.
Okay, proportional voting is this. Let's say all 4 of us are running for the chair. Say you get your slate that you have, say you get 60 votes. I get 59, Alexis gets 48, and someone else gets 40. The threshold is 40. So if everybody got that, they go and they look at how many people on that slate. So that means 2 of my people, because I got 61 votes, some of my slate goes, so it'll be the top of the slate. Say myself, my first chair, my second chair, treasurer, something like that will go. But then let's say
you gotta go to the next slate.
You got to go to the next slate. Let's say that they got more votes. They got a lot more votes. So then we may have to put their third chair and their parliamentarian, or
so you may have to incorporate people from both
each slate, from all of the slates, based on proportional voting.
And then where you're replaced, right, on the actual slate. So like Joe was saying, you may get the top 4 from this slate, and you may get the top 2
from another slate
because of that proportional voting. So,
and then your executive committee, whoever the chair is, gets to choose a lot of people. And usually what that will consist of, we'll go over to Darwin and get some people off of your slate. We'll get some off Alexis's slate. We'll get some off of Joseph's slate. And we'll all come together. That's the kumbaya period. But what I've seen happen is that we pick a slate. That's the slate we want. The rest of y'all don't matter. I told them I'm not going down it, because see, the thing about me, when you come to this dance, I'm a military man, okay? I look at it as a war. So I look at who my enemy is, what the mission is, and the mission is to get the agenda that I've been elected to do. Now, and I got to figure out the quickest way to get that done. And one of the things I found out about the Michigan Democratic Party, and people say, well, he's trash. No, I'm calling a spade a spade. Let's look at your receipts. A lot of us don't do the work. It's not a lot since I became the chair of the organizations that I belong to, that the numbers have just increasingly went up, because I'm out there in the streets. Whereas other people, well, because I'm here, I got the position, they gonna go vote. People don't vote. Black men were not voting in Southfield and various other places. And it wasn't about they didn't like the political process. It's how we're treated. You see, my name is Joseph Person, and it's okay, Darwin, you call me Joe Person, because call me Joe. But people want to come and call me what they want to call me, or they want me to do what it is they want me to do. Not what the agenda is. The agenda is to get Democrats elected. It's not to get white Democrats elected. White female or white male or white LGBT plus get elected. It's all of us. And what we've seen is that they constantly just make sure we get certain people elected. And so since you weren't pushing black men, they said, well, if you're going to disrespect me, not bring me to the table, then why should I participate? And that's what's going on.
Yeah, the work is not getting done. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, it speaks for itself. When you get out here, you knock doors, you touch people, people will vote. It's just that simple.
Exactly.
It's no getting around it. Same way when you were talking about how I literally watched down the street here in the North End area, really pretty much off of the Woodward Kenilworth area.
Yes.
They brought in some people, an organization from out of state, right? And so instead of hiring local people who are actually on the ground, you bring these people in from out of state. I saw this with my own eyes.
Yes.
There's no way, and no disrespect, but Pookie and them who
don't know Southfield and Laker Village like I know.
Who don't know Detroit. But what I'm saying is the quality of people who are walking through that door, getting that $50, $100, whatever it is, a day that
Right.
they would receive to go knock doors, there's no way they were knocking anything.
Right.
You understand? You weren't even presentable enough, right, to even go to someone's door. So what they did is you had these organizations that came here from out of state, made all this money off of the Democratic Party here, and did not do the work. The numbers speak for themselves, okay? And also, we have to think about where they were going, where they were taking Madam Vice President. I mean, let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Trump went to the hood, y'all.
Okay, right.
Okay, Trump was over here off of Grand River. Trump was over here off of Bewick and Mac. He sent people into our neighborhoods to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do for you. So while we were sitting up here holding events, downtown and in Eastern Market and, big venue places or down at Cobo and all these different places, he had his people on the ground knocking doors, actually talking to people saying, hey, this is what the Trump administration will do for you.
And-
so you want to know why he won? It's because the Republicans came to our backyard and they did the work in our backyard. We're going to just call it what it is.
And let me tell you how strategic they are. Let me say this. John James, who's been running since he ran for state U.S. Senator against Debbie Stabenow, Gary Peters. Do you know that each time, I wasn't the chair then when he ran against Debbie Stabenow, but he knew who the people that do the work in Southfield. That man came and knocked on my door. Mr. Person, how you doing? I'm John James. I'm running for U.S. Senate. Really? I understand you actually do some work here. You get out, you do the work. Here's my card. Let me introduce myself to you. And I'll say this. I don't agree with everything, but he's a military man. So therefore, he knew that I was a military man. He understands how we think. So he knew he could come and knock on my door and say, hey, how you doing? Well, will you vote for me? Never. All of these other folks that know me, I had to cuss them out. Oh my God, it's unreal what I had to do just to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with that. These are the things. And then Trump and them, they had their people, not only in the hood, he came to the hood, he said, no, I'm not going to do nothing for you. I'm going to do something for you. Mm-hmm. Our people would not tell us the truth and have us, they wouldn't just tell us the truth. They just told us.
They gave us boilerplate answers.
I'll get back to you. Do you know, I met with 4 of the caucuses, Washtenaw County Caucus, Macomb County Caucus. I'm the Oakland County Caucus Chair, and the Wayne County Caucus Chair. We met with the Biden and Harris campaign folks in March. Mm-hmm. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is December 27th, mm-hmm. and we still haven't heard back from them about money that we needed to help them. Mm-hmm. If they had given us, we could have negated that 100,000 votes that Trump won by here in the state of Michigan. But they wouldn't go and put it in the hands of people such as ourselves. And the thing about it, some of us had to help each other out. I picked up the phone and needed some money and called the election and said, listen, I may need some money to help me to get out the vote, to help get some people. Although I had been given some chump change, it wasn't enough to do what I needed to do. This sister, this leader, is a real leader here sitting next to me. Joe, what do you need? How much money you need? I can give you 3-4 people these days. I never got that from the Democratic Party where they said, well, okay, we're going to send you 3-4 people. But Trump and them were out there. Listen, they came to me and said, Joe, we'll pay you whatever you need to get the vote out. We'll pay you whatever, not only what you need, but we're going to respect you. But more importantly, we're going to acknowledge you. That's the other thing. The biggest thing about the Democratic Party. They brought something in called One Campaign that didn't do any work.
Hold on, Joe, just real quick. Let's
go ahead.
Just real quick.
Go ahead on and get in.
Who knows what the One Campaign is? Nobody understands that the One Campaign is the actual presidential campaign. So again, nobody. What is the One Campaign? Just tell me, because they're not out here doing it. And I'm not knocking them. Lord have mercy. You get where I'm coming from. But
right.
But we have to just start having real conversation. And the conversation is the fact that, and when I talk to my constituents in my district, they have no idea what the One Campaign is. You got these people coming to your door. All they do is leave a little kicker card or some type of information on your door.
They're not able to come work for them.
Right. How you can come? No, volunteer.
Volunteer.
Right. Let's call it what it is. It's not work. Right. It's volunteer. Come come volunteer for us. But yet you had the Republican Party who was out here, not only getting people out, but they also were paying people. Those days of working for free are over. I think we've said that numerous times. You're not going to get us out here just constantly working for free. And we're watching you pay other people who just sit on their behinds all day, right? And you want us to come out here and give our work for free.
That's a good point.
It just doesn't work.
Because it's hard when you are across the street from somebody and you're volunteering to put up kicker cards and doors, and somebody across the street
is making
will follow
$25 an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know.
But
So-
it's also the one campaign. Give me the other campaign. What is it? It's the we got the one campaign, and then it's Project 80.
Yeah, Project 83.
Project
now this
83.
is now Project 83 is where they have that's supposed to cover all 83 counties.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I first started working with them, and I got into it with the lady that was running it, and she says, "Who am I accountable to?" I says, "I'm accountable to the people that elected me in precinct 29. I'm not accountable to the Democratic Party because y'all don't give me any money." And when you go look at their work, now, the one guy that did work, and that's because we served with him, that was Von Dearden that worked for Project 83.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that is, I don't know if it
And
was...
Marino Taylor. Marino.
Oh, Marino Taylor, yeah.
Marino does
Taylor.
work, yeah.
Those two actually did some work. Von Dearden was in charge of Oakland County. And Marino Taylor, if I couldn't get something done with Von, I could pick up the phone and call Marino Taylor. But you got 83 counties, but you don't have the people here locally. Pay us locally. And then when you ask for a report, for example, the financial report, or say MDP, to know what's going on, how they're spending with the one campaign of Project 83, oh my God, that's top secret. They don't want anybody to know what's going on. Folks, you got to be transparency. You got to hire the people locally. You see, Alexis, when she told us, we had a meeting and we had to have a meeting over here. She told me exactly, well, Joe, come to this place. But look, it snowed yesterday, this particular time we were talking. You can't go in that street. You got to go down this side street and come back around on the back end. Why? Because she knows this area. A Project 83 or one campaign tell me to come and canvass. They won't know that it snowed the 2 days before and can tell me that, how to move around in that district or in that city. Ladies and gentlemen, Democrats, let me say this, we are broken. We are broken. The leadership needs to change, and I'm going to go out there first. I'm going to support Al Williams for chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. Now, the rest of y'all can do whatever you want. I'm fine with it. If you choose to vote for the opposition, I'm never going to say who the opposition is because you don't do that politically. But that's who I'm going to push out there for Joseph Person. We're not even talking about Mrs. Person or anybody, but for Joseph Person, I'm rolling with Al B.J. Williams for the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. Why? Because when I did the research on him, did he have issues? Yes. That's a Morehouse man, ladies and gentlemen. A Morehouse man. Morehouse men, whether they do some things right or wrong, they understand what is to be done. And he has done the work in terms of what Joe Person has learned about the Michigan Democratic Party. So I'm going to support who supported me. I'm not going to go along to get along. And do we need a shakeup? The opposition just lost his election. They said he could raise a bunch of money. I'm going to say it this one time.
Okay.
Curtis Hertel, he lost the election to Tom Barnett. And I was told he's going to raise a lot of money. Well, obviously he didn't raise enough money because he lost in his district. It was, I think, a blue district and it turned red. Something's wrong with that.
He ran for Alyssa Slotkin's old seat.
Right, but it was a blue slate. I mean, a blue district, and it turned red. And when you saw the numbers, it was unreal. So I'm trying to understand here, Democrats.
But again, that goes back to our messaging, Joe. Right.
Yeah.
You get where I'm coming from.
Right.
It takes it back to the messaging. And what the Republican Party did is they reverse engineered us.
Exactly.
Okay. They decided to take the Obama route by, of staying positive. And what we did as Democrats, we got down in the weeds. All we did was talk about the other candidate, talk about how they, he did this, he did that, January 6th, January that. You never told us what you were going to do for us in order to inspire us to vote for you. But when it came to the Republican Party, whether it was who ran against Hertel or anybody else, right? At the end of the day, they reverse engineered us. They sat up there and they did the damage that they needed to do by staying positive.
Well,
positivity wins.
We've got to take another break in a minute. Mm-hmm. Joe Person.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on Truth to Power with us today. Alexis Ramsey. Thank you for coming on Truth. And I extended, Alexis, you always have an open invitation.
Absolutely.
Joe Person, I hope that you will come back.
Oh, I'll be back. I will be back, especially if there's some issues that we need. We need to.
Let's educate the people next go around on what Project 83 is and what the One campaign is.
Okay, let's do that. We go do the homework.
That's a good show right there.
That's a good show by itself.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you make. I think we've got maybe about another minute left before we go to our next segment. Joe, I'll let you get something in. Give me 30 seconds on by.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to go out and work hard to better ourselves in the Democratic Party, in the caucuses, in the local clubs, but more importantly as Americans. This country was built by our forefathers, which were slaves, but yet we're not at the table. It's time to come to the table and make everyone respect us. From now on, don't call me unless you're willing to give us something that we need, because we see that you do that with every ethnicity but the Black Democrats.
Alexis?
I'm right there with you. So again, it's been a wonderful show today, Darwin. Mr. Persons is always great. Just looking forward to what this is going to look like. We have races coming up right now locally, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
It's time for us to focus on the local. But I always will go back to the fact of what Mr. Person was saying. It's time for you to start putting money into the Black community if you want the Black community to show up. Point blank, period. No
Well,
more
see,
no
I
less.
always say, every time I talk to people, I always say you got to separate the pretenders from the contenders. Mm-hmm. And that's what it really boils down to.
Yes.
Joe Person, Alexis Ramsey, thank you for coming. Now, Alexis, real quick, the convention in February is what day? And where's it going to be?
February 27th.
22nd.
22nd, I'm sorry. And I believe it's going to be at Huntington Place.
Yes, the old Cobo Hall.
The old Cobo Hall downtown. So we're gearing up, getting ready for this melee here. That's going to happen. But at the end of the day, all I say is just let, however this turns out, we as a people have to stick together and fight for what we want. And we can no longer just settle. And I think it's time to cause a little bit of disruption. So let's get it done.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Truth to Power, and we've got another hour. So stay tuned.
Saturday afternoons at 12 p.m. Followed by Mr. Smooth's Ballroom and Steppers Express Dance Show on WHPR 15.2 Detroit, Apple TV, Roku, and many streaming platforms. See you Saturday.
Watkins Broadcasting is going worldwide. Now you can watch Detroit's own WHPR on your TV from anywhere in the world. No matter where you are, you can stay in the know with WHPR TV and Roku. You can get your easy-to-install Roku box from wherever you shop for your entertainment gear. Once your Roku box is connected to your TV and internet, go to the channel store on the home menu of the Roku box. Enter WHPR TV in the search engine and add it to your channels. That's it. That's all you need to get the best in entertainment, news, and talk, no matter where you are. Roku brings all of your favorites to your TV. Netflix, Hulu Plus, Crackle, HBO Go, and now WHPR TV, Detroit Live. Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
Again, you are watching Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are in our last hour of the show today. And just as we had Mr. Joe Person and we had Mr. Alexis Ramsey, we also have two additional powerhouses in the community. And I think that when you hear their names, well, Norman, everybody knows Norman. Norman's been on the show with me. I always count on Norman. He's a great, great person to have, with his insight and his valuable knowledge about not just when it comes to the political arena, but also with sports. So, we may tap a little bit into that because we know the Lions have a real critical game coming up, Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. But a person that is new to the show, and we are very valued and very humbled to have her on the show, as busy as she is in the community. Many of the organizations that, as we talked about in the first hour, that may be dependent on monies to do get out to vote, GOTV monies, and to make certain that the messaging is getting out there, to have people knock on doors, to disseminate, information about what the messaging is all about. And I'll let her, introduce in terms of say who she's working with now. But the name Jacinda Cason is a name that everybody, when you're talking about resources and where to get resources and how to move in some of the arenas and some of the organizations that you may need to get into, Ms. Cason is the person to get in touch with. She is very, very knowledgeable and very resourceful when it comes to getting the job and getting the work done. As Mr. Person said, she has receipts for all of the work that she does in the community. Jacinda Cason, welcome to Truth to Power today.
Thank you so much, Darwin.
And Norman, I'll start with you first real quick. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it, but I know something that's a common thread that we think about now. This does not seem like Christmas. This does not seem like the Christmas season.
No.
And I see both of you wearing green, so you got the memo to wear green,
right.
But why isn't this not Christmas? I talked to Joe Person about that earlier today, and like Joe was saying, probably if we had had a different result in this presidential election, we might be a little bit more festive,
Yeah, I think that might be a case point. And also, this was 2024 was a trying year. And so I think people are not as festive, but they're really, really trying to get close to family, friends, loved ones, to understand, trying to get some just remembrance of some semblance of decorum, some normalcy, because we don't know what 2025 is going to bring. I can talk personally. I'm stressed all the way out. Don't know what was going to look like. I think everybody's fearful for their children. They're fearful for themselves. They're fearful for anything. I think we're going to go back to, I remember just like between 2016 to 2020, we were watching the news like it was the playoffs. Like we're gonna be constantly looking at news media or certain news media for that period of time, and that level of stress that during those times was kind of it's like it's kind of crazy. Like we have become used to, art imitates reality. We have been so consumed of reality TV that we think it's supposed to be in our politics, in our policies. If it's quiet, they ain't doing nothing. When we see it on TV, questions, and we have been so consumed with reality TV that reality TV has come to our politics, and that's not how it's supposed to work. And so we're so used to it, we're comfortable. And that's the scary thing about it, because it's not supposed to be that way. And I think we were just coping to, we're trying to, I think everybody's doing their best for their kids. People normalize it for them, but I think there's a lot of worry and stress that's coming on right now. I'll be honest with you.
Well, and that's something that leads to, my next question to you is, Jacinda, I know that we hear a lot of some of the cuts that 47. I mean, he was 45. Now he's 45 and 47 because you see him wearing his hats to say both 45 and 47. But you're hearing about some of the cuts that they may make when it comes down to the nonprofits. Are you concerned about that, Jacinda?
I am concerned about that because we know that they are actively doing away with DEI in all segments of society, whether it's...
Explain to our lay people that don't know what DEI is.
That DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is another pillar of the quota system where they had to put quotas into hiring and education and workplaces to make sure that a representative population of the Black people were represented in education, business, anything where we had traditionally been excluded, right? So a lot of states had instituted quotas, and then they instituted affirmative action, right? To make sure that we can also get into places where traditionally we could not even get into. And then you have DEI, which was actually the policies that solidified everything to make sure that places looked like us or had some semblance of representing us. And so when I say that, what we hear and what a lot of people don't understand is DEI does not mean just to take a person of color, whether it's Black, Mexican, Indian, anything, and put them in a position of power where they don't have the qualifications. All of us, any person of color, especially Black people, know that we don't have to work 2 times as hard. We have to work 10 times as hard to get to those places. And so to even be on that short list to get into those places, you have to have the receipts that you are qualified to be in these places. Well, because of the MAGA population and the incoming regime, that's what I want to call them, they don't want to compete. They see that it is not, they don't have an equal playing field when it comes to holding on to this power. And so they are strategically getting rid of everything DEI and everything that we can think of. And so when you're talking about funding, I have worked in funding capacity for the past 8 years here in the state of Michigan. And what I have been telling nonprofits that I am funding is, please go in and change your mission statement. If it says that you are working to help Black people, if you're working, change that and say that you're trying to help people that live in the urban community. Okay, we have to use the coded language just like they use the coded language, but we do not want to be targets of having any type of funding being stripped from us. We also know that during George Floyd, all of these corporations came out and put DEI into their organizations to show that they were not only allies, but quote unquote co-liberators with us. And they wanted to make sure that we had equity at the table. What have we seen last year? All of them are pulling those out. They're saying, no, we see that this does not matter anymore. John Deere, Walmart, Starbucks, everybody is pulling these DEI clauses out of their mission statements now, and they're falling in line with the incoming president that's coming. And so when it comes from funding, the current organization that I work with, we're concerned because we say it with our full chest who we are and who we fight for. I am not going to mention the name, but if you all know me, you know exactly who I work with. Technically, where I'm breaking, I'm not supposed to be speaking in behalf of the organization right now. But our main goal is to fund organizations across the United States that are politically engaged in a nonpartisan manner to educate individuals about the branches of government, why their vote matters, and then all of the other things. So yes, we're definitely afraid. We don't know what the future holds after 2025 because with the Lord have mercy, Norman help me.
With the
Project 2025, that is a 180-day plan, which they're not even supposed to institute until he gets inaugurated in January. But we see they started that plan as soon as he was announced president. And so what does this look like for us? What does this look like? The cutting of HUD, the cutting of the Department of Education, the cutting of FEMA, the cutting of all of our institutions that we know that a lot of Black people literally depend on, especially federal jobs, that a lot of us, we already knew that in the 60s and 70s, when we were able to get into these roles, the best job to get was a city job and a government job, right? We know that the president can then put whoever he wants into those positions. And these jobs are historically held by Black people because these was the safest job because they was always nonpartisan. But he's saying, no, we're going to put in loyalists that can move my agenda ahead.
And to piggyback off of that and looking at that, the gentleman, the billionaire John Hope, African-American billionaire, always says that the basis of the best economies in the world are diversity economies. We're in a diversity nation. As you know, the white population globally is only maybe about 3 to 4% of the population of the global world. And so going back to that mindset of no longer competing, white is right. I'm white, so I should be able to get in the position because of the color of my skin. That type of notion will no longer help you anymore because guess what? It's a global economy. There are Chinese billionaires, there's African billionaires, multi-government entities are all people of color. Saudi Arabia controls OPEC. So that mindset of MAGA going back to that, and it's pretty much is going to be chaos because once you take over a level of government, that means guess what? The social services that mostly understand that there are more white people on food stamps than Black folks, than Latinos. That directly hurts them.
But they would cut their nose
to spite their face and see if it's all right. And so this policy where it's like a bittersweet coming up this year is going to be tough. But my mom or my grandfather or my grandmother always said saying things always work themselves out. And pain is also the ultimate motivation. And that means that this chaos that we see that's going to happen has to affirm to us to get our stuff together, which we already going to be. We're going to already get our stuff together, but also as a nation to really sit back and deal with truth where, okay, everybody thinks they're middle class. No, they're not middle class. There are several classes. There's the poor, the working class, the middle class, the middle class, the upper class, your elite, your wealthy, and your royalty. And a lot of us fall in this poor class. The working poor or the working class. That's where we all fall in because we don't have that savings enough to back us to say this. Okay, if I have 3 years of savings, then guess what? If I lose my job and I can survive 3 years, that means I'm middle class. Mm-hmm. See, that's basic civics economics that we have to go back to teach our folks to say, hey, This is where you are, and start voting in your own interest. And I think that is something where we got to do holistically on the ground level to tell people the truth. We meet them where they are and tell them, we meet you where you are, but you're not there. You're here.
Well, Norman, Jacinda, because of the fact that we like to educate, our viewers and our listeners, Jacinda, I just want to ask you in terms of, because you work with a lot of nonprofits, explain to our audience the differences, especially when we talk about C3s and C4s. What all does that entail? Because I know there's monies that can be disseminated out to C3s, and then there's monies that can be disseminated out to C4s. Explain the difference to our audience, please.
A nonprofit that's a C3 organization has to be nonpartisan, period. We cannot endorse anyone. We cannot ask questions that's going to manipulate people to lean in one way. But what we can do is focus on the policy and focus on the office. And so when you're doing your civic engagement education, if you focus on the office and the policies that impact the people, that's a C3 organization. There are many different type of C3 organizations. A church is a C3 organization, right? We saw them being targeted years back, or was it just last year with the water? Okay, they're a C3 organization. They're supposed to be exempt from that, but then they were not. So we know many different C3s. A C4 is an organization that can basically say it with their full chest. We endorse this person. This person's policies are in alignment with our organization. And then they can do fundraisers for that person. And so the organization I currently work with, we have a C3, a C4, a PAC, and a super PAC. But in the state of Michigan, we basically operate under our C3. We did not get a lot of C4 money this year, which it did hurt us in the state of Michigan. But we had innumerable factors that hurt us outside of not having C4 funding in the state of Michigan. So that is basically the watered down version of a difference between a C3 and a C4. A C3 cannot endorse and cannot talk about any political party. We can't say Democrat. We can't say Republican. We can't say Joe Biden. We can't say Donald Trump. We cannot say those things. Those things will definitely, if someone's watching, can get your status revoked. But as a C4 organization, you can't say those things.
And see, that's the thing that a lot of people, when they're looking at trying to get a C3 or a C4, to understand the difference, between those two entities, so that you can't get your status revoked. And now, if the status is revoked, since you brought that up, how long of a penalty would that organization have before they could reapply again for that?
That depends on the IRS, right? It's usually up to 1 year penalty, and then you have to jump through a lot of hoops. Now, with me saying that we cannot endorse anyone under a C3, what you can do is have a small percentage of your time lobbying your elected officials to make sure that they understand the things that are important to your community and try to move policy in that way. So you do have a small aspect of that to be able to do that under a C3. So all is not lost. You just have to get proper legal counsel to see exactly how much time you can dedicate to that.
Yeah. And normally that's probably under a mark of $25,000 time for that year that you could dedicate time for that. But really, you're still really focusing on policy. You're really still focused on policy. And those type of policies with your lobbying, you're not lobbying just one side. You're lobbying both sides of those chambers, state reps, state senators, to really get that stuff moved through the floor, moved through the chamber, to pass. And so those things that you you do. So this is education, because a lot of times we get calls from folks to come out and hold the table, but it's for sometimes you get for an event to endorsement. We can't do that. And so that knowledge out there, that give people that information out there, that Your C3s are not supposed to be a place where they can be at a rally or endorsing a candidate. And that has to be, especially now. And so it's going to be tricky to go through these roads here, but I think most of the nonprofits that I deal with or work with are up for the challenge. Everybody's getting their books in order, and we know what time it is. I think everybody's just reluctant. I think everybody's just like we can fight this fight, but we should not have to fight this fight.
Well, it's so interesting because it's just like in our previous segment, Joe Person mentioned the person that he was endorsing, for the Michigan Democratic Party chair.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that by him mentioning that, we have to do due diligence and mention the other candidates that are running as well. And he did make mention about Curtis Sertel,
right,
who was also a candidate, along with Al B.J. Williams. And then also, if I'm not mistaken, the third candidate that's running, because I want to be fair, is a gentleman named Mark Ingram. I believe I'm saying his name right. But because they're all running for the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party, that's why you want to make certain that every candidate is represented. So we don't have and we don't show any favoritism to any candidate that is running through, Watkins Broadcasting or through WHPR. And one of the things that we, may do in the future is invite all the candidates to come on the show.
I think that's a great idea. I think people need to hear from all candidates now. I think now, since the past election, I think there need to be a lot more due diligence and vetting. Just going through the process. Also, I hope they'll start listening to those on the ground, people who do the work every single day. That needs to happen. I think outside entities that are not from the city of Detroit or Hamtramck, or even across the state from Grand Rapids, the temperatures always change, and so you need to hear from all candidates from background. Whoever's running, everybody needs to have a platform to say who they represent, who am I for, what's in my background, and get vetted. That is a proper place for the people to know who they support and who they voting for.
Also, people need to understand the role of the Democratic chair.
Yes.
You can know these people all day long and you can vet them, but a normal person's like, okay, so the Democratic chair, what that mean? At a part in time where a lot of Black people are leaving or thinking differently about the Democratic Party, you want to understand that they understand what exactly the Democratic chair actually means and how they can be a part of this process and how that person can negatively or positively impact their community.
And you bring a great point, because that's the thing, that there are people now that are talking about possibly leaving the Democratic Party and becoming independents.
Yeah, I think
and that's critical, Norman, because you're trying to do as much as you can, trying to keep people to stay within the party, be it Republican, be it Democrat, because I know years ago that was the thing. It seemed like the Republican Party was imploding, and from within. And there were a lot of people that were, and now people are talking about the same thing when it comes to the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party might be imploding.
Well, I mean, both parties are imploding because, to be honest, independents are growing at a faster. Independent is the growing fastest party in the nation since it's been going on since the past 8 years. And so people want common sense.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to get lied to. People want to participate in each party, but also people also understand that, I want a place in it.
And the thing is too, Norman, because we got to take a break, but the basic thing is people want transparency.
Absolutely. I think that's
first and foremost than anything else. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Mr. Jacinta Kason, Mr. Norman Clement. You're watching Truth to Power, and we'll be right back after these commercial messages.
This is the Finance Doctor with the Phoenix Group. We specialize in financial problems. If you're dealing with repossession, foreclosure, garnishment, or any financial problem, give us a call at 1-877-446-1664. That number again is 1-877-446-1664 for the help you need. We specialize in financial problems.
TV 33 is moving to WHPS TV channel 15.2. Make sure to rescan the channels on your TV. Then go to WHPS channel 15.2 to pick up TV 33 and all of your favorite shows. The move is on, and we want you to move with us to WHPS channel 15.2.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Matter. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Show. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are in our last half an hour of the show today with none other than Norman Clement, just in the case line. And, just wanted to ask you a question before we went to break. Wanted to ask you both a question. A lot of times you have the nonprofits that, like Jacinda, people know you, they see your face, they know automatically a nonprofit that you may, represent. Norman, they see the same thing, with you. Can you step out and just be Norman Clement, not Norman Clement of that particular organization or that nonprofit? And the same thing, Jacinda, can you, like, let's say, for example, can you endorse someone not under whatever the nonprofit that you represent, and you won't give that organization any penalties, or they won't be in subject to losing their nonprofit status?
Well, for me, all of these conversations I've already had with my compliance and HR, as well as my executive leadership team, to let them know that I might be moving differently this year and what that looks like, right? So they already know. I just have to have those conversations to make sure that it's not the quote unquote conflict of interest. Okay. So yes.
Same here. So we always have that conversation with our board members and some of our organization team leaders, community members, say, hey, there's going to be a little bit difference of this year. That's why we do have a C3 and a C4 component, but we do have those conversations first. And we're just you gotta have those conversations first to be above reproach, especially with legal. Say what you can do, what you can't do. So.
And see, that was a concern too, because there were a lot of C3s and C4s that were doing work, but they weren't being compensated for the work that they were doing.
That right there goes back to what campaigning and what ultimately has always been the issue. This year was a little bit different because, I'm not going to say this, where it was noted this year because the folks on the ground never get any money. They get very little or anything, but they do a lot of the work. But this year was that a lot of the bigger organizations, some of the gatekeepers didn't get any money this year, and then it was an issue for everybody. And so that's why it got a little bit known, but the folks on the street that do the ground, they never hardly get it until the last minute, but they constantly do the work, which the work is needed. This year was highlighted because some of the gatekeepers didn't get the funding either. And so now going into 2025 here, those gatekeeping organizations have a bigger target because they're a bigger organization. Well, the smaller nonprofits are still going to continue doing the work, but they have to move differently also. And so what does that look like? What does that really look like? Everyone sees a light moment. And those conversations will be had where, okay, those who are doing the work need to get supported, who are doing the work, and those in that position who used to be in gatekeeping definitely need to change their approach on how things work and moving forward. And that's what's going to happen. Now, will they change? I don't know. This is but to be seen. But you have to change and move forward. It can't be the same old, same old. It cannot be.
And that's the thing, because there are folks that are looking to work in this local election for city council, for mayor. But then you've also got another state election when you're talking about gubernatorial election. And because it's an open seat, because, Governor Whitmer is term limited out, that's going to open up everybody, that will be running, not just Democrat, but also Republican. And then also you can't wait till the last minute, because I don't know how both of you feel. And I think we've talked about it before, whether or not if you thought that Biden should have stepped down to allow Kamala Harris to run those last 107 days, for the election, or if you thought that she was right to go and ascend that title of being the presidential candidate for 2024. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, my thoughts on that are, like I said before, this was cooked in ahead of time. If I go back in time, I would say, number one, he should have never appointed Merrick Garland as Attorney General. It should have been Stephen Jones, a former senator from Alabama. Second thing, he dedicated to the population that it was an issue during that time running that age was an issue. And if he said he's going to be a one term, he should have said that one term. The third thing is that he waited way too late. So it's only possible for one person to take that to run. You couldn't have an open election. You couldn't have an open anything because the time frame was too short and too late. He controlled all the delegates. And so at that time, you had to have a whole nother primary to actually have that vote to go in per the rules of the DNC. And so she was the only one to take that step, to take that minute, because she was on the ticket with him. And so you had those factors in there. Even with all of that going on, what the Republican Party did, their candidate, Trump, he's been running since 2021.
2021. He's been running since he was a celebrity. When he got into office, as soon as he lost, he said he's going to run again. He's been running since that point. Two, their billionaires, their supporters did another tactic. They knew that they didn't have the population. They know a lot of people didn't support them. But what they did have was the money and the dedication resources where they poured into YouTube. They poured into those messaging centers. They saw people going on every single day. Whereas the Democratic opposition during that time
did not change the ways of what their views were, did not put the dedication resources into every single day. Republican billionaires, they put the resource funders, they put the resources in whether they get a result or not because they're looking for a long-term goal. Our funding mechanism problem is that funders put money there, then it's gatekeep it, then it goes out, and they only give it 2 to 3 years, and then the results don't happen how they want to. Well, we don't want to change the main factors of the problem. We just want to do it a better way so we can spend more money on algorithms or bots or AI instead of going out there doing the work. Case in point, here's one thing I can bring up. During the 2022 election, the reason why the Democrats outperformed the Republicans is because during that time, the COVID money, more socially organizations, especially who territories, liberal or did a lot of work out there with COVID outreach. They did a lot of misinformation campaigns on that. They did a lot of street work. They did food giveaways, meal plans, health seminars, all holistic approach on the community. That's from 2021, all of 2021 and most of 2022. That means you had 20 something months of constant contact with people on the ground every day. 78% of those people that got contact with those 20 months every that time voted. Where you do a comparison, you only contact them for 3 to 4 months, only 6% voted. Wow. That data's there. That data's always been there. Republicans took that data. Oh, we're going to put it in this atmosphere. We're not going to have offices or anything like that. We're going to do everything through YouTube. We're going to do everything through podcasts because people listen to us in new media. That's what they did. And so I'm not shocked that the media campaign was going on, but the issue is that the other side has to come to fruition where I have to cut off certain folks. I have to cut off certain tactics that no longer work. Mm-hmm. And that's where the gatekeeping comes in. They know it doesn't work, but they're their friends, and you want to have that kind of hard conversation with their friends. And that's it.
Well, just I want to ask you the question I asked a lot of women since the election, their thoughts. How did you feel when she was the presidential candidate for 2024? What was your thoughts?
I was excited because we were tired. We were tired. I was literally pushing programming onto my partners, and it is exhausting trying to get people motivated for a campaign that they don't really see themselves winning. And so when she announced that she was running, it was like a jolt of energy through everyone. Like, oh my God, we have a chance. They're saying that Biden was too old. Well, Kamala's younger than Trump. So there you go, and she's a woman, and she's a woman of color. We can debate if she's a black woman or not, but she's a woman of color running against Trump. And on top of that, she was qualified to run against him. She has served in all branches of government, so there you have it there. But the problem was, again, people didn't know Kamala Harris, or if they did know her, they knew a lot of the misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation about her. But in that 107 days, if we look at that data, she gave Trump a run for his money because he didn't dust her. He barely won over her. You understand what I'm saying? And so for her to come out of the woodwork and run a campaign like that in 107 days, I give a lot of applause. Yes, they did a lot of stuff wrong, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of stuff wrong. A lot of it was it wasn't inclusive. It was inclusive as far as trying to include everybody, but it was not inclusive in the demographics that they were targeting, right? It was not inclusive in the people that they were allowing to come and see Kamala Harris, right? I went to one. I wasn't going to no more because you was going to see the same people at everything, and that is not our targeted demographic, right? We try to focus on people that are the rare voters. So people that don't understand what a vote score is. So people who come out infrequently, like every 4 years or every 10 years, or probably don't even come out to vote, those are our target people. Our target people is that mama that got 3 kids that working all day and she ain't got time to come out, or she don't even know that, oh, I can get 2 hours off and go vote. Those are our people that don't understand the voting process. And these are the people that never got that shared link to come and see Kamala Harris, right? And so how are you trying to do this outreach to her if you're not using the same data that the Republicans used to target the same people? I gave funding to Black organizations to do Black male outreach. As I'm in the barbershops and hearing those Black men's comments that were right-leaning, made my knees buckle, because I understood then that their tactics was working. A year and a half ago, when Norman and I heard about Project 2025, and I started talking to funders like, what are we doing to combat this? They did not think it was a big deal, right? And they did not think it was a big deal until when? June?
Till June.
July?
Actually, they thought it was a big deal. I could tell you, when we started doing, me and Kermit Williams and the brothers out there did a series of male engagement events over last year. 2023, we sat there and said, hey, there's a problem. We went to funders meetings. We went to all these and said, hey, guys, there's a problem. Even Brandon Snyder, hey, there's a problem with Black men. Until we had an article that came out, the guys follows from the Washington Post, and says Biden's problem with Black men. Once that hit the news, everybody said, oh, shoot, from CNN and everything. What's the problem? What's the problem? Well, we didn't know he had a problem. So he been had a problem. This is nothing new. We told you this. So the bigger issue is that those who are in those DC circles on K Street, who've never ever actually gone out to Southeast, all they got to do is go to Southeast DC or Northeast, or go down there or go in there Anacostia and sit there and have those conversations with those people. They said the same thing that we were saying in Detroit. They say the same thing in all over. But the thing is that they have to get out their silos and do that. And then when the people come to the ground that you trust to tell you what the problem is, you have to listen. I could give it to one thing with the Republican Party. When they lost, they went back to that data and said, okay, how we can spread misinformation. YouTube, podcasters, male, Red Pill Talk, where we talk about male versus women dynamics. We could talk about they're not seeing them in the party because they knew that, unfortunately, and let's be honest with the Democratic Party, they had pushed out a lot of Black men. And so that where would they go in those spaces?
One thing that the Republicans do very well is understand that one of the greatest threats to their movement is Black Americans, right? Because we have been the recipients of all of their negative policies. And so they study us. And anything that they see us taking that needle and moving it forward, they know how to target our people. When the list came out of all of the funding that Kamala Harris gave for her campaign, Black organizations were at the bottom.
Yeah.
We're at the bottom of that list. And we should have been at the top of that list, because you always ask the people closest to the problem what the solution is, right? And so for the Democratic Party to not do that, but the Republican Party to do that, right, is like, wow. And I was listening to a podcast where you have Black podcasters and news outlets saying, we literally turned down money from the Republican Party, not because we had the luxury of doing it, because that money could have stabilized our budget for 5 years, but because we morally knew that it was wrong. So they were being targeted, whereas they were saying, we're begging the Democratic Party for money, and it was crickets.
Yeah. And that's what happened. And that's why everyone right now is a somber effect, because this election passed. I think everybody thought naturally everybody will be all in. But again, people showed their ASS last year, Darwin. People who are out, we thought who were allies, they were not allies now. And so you're moving different right now. You're moving because when that list came out, you found out who got money and who didn't, and who did do nothing with the dollars that they got. And so now you're looking like, oh, okay, all right, I see what it is. So you got to move different now. It's not going to be the same anymore.
Well, see, that was the thing, because I was in a conversation with some people recently, and we were talking about black media and not including black media in a lot of those conversations about where to put money into to promote candidates.
Well, Darby, even with the show here, did you get it when they came to Michigan? Did you get approached by the DNC to do anything questioning here? Because the thing about black media that they don't understand is that most black homes have Roku. We're on Roku. We go from here, from Detroit, Benton Harbor, the west part of the state, all the way up to the peninsula. A lot of people have Roku. A lot of people don't have Apple TV. Roku is built into the TVs now. So most of your poor, your working class folks, this is where they get the information from. And they look at this stuff and say, what's going on in Detroit? What's going on down here? Let me get some real information. Because they do not believe the media, MSNBC anymore. CNN, they don't believe none of those channels no more because they see the song and dance. So people get their sources of information from us. And so...
And we also have to understand that they do control a large part of the media.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News owned Tubi.
Yeah.
Right? They owned Tubi. So all those commercials was coming from Fox News. And Tubi is a black, right? Mm-hmm. But not knowing that it's owned by a rich white billionaire who just sold it to Disney. Mm-hmm. Right? And then you got Zeus. Some of these things is a different internal conversation on what we're consuming and doing that who, what, when, where, and why are they pushing this stuff on us, right? This is part of what's called the 7 pillars of society. And this right now is what all of the billionaires, the white billionaires, are controlling in America. Another thing that I wanted to say is from your last segment, they said that there was no money put into Michigan. I myself personally, single-handedly, put $850,000 in the hands of over 90 or 80 nonprofits, Divine Nines, and churches in the state of Michigan that were doing civic engagement work, knocking doors, sending text messages, and making phone calls. Our next strategy going into the first quarter is literally targeting individuals that have voting scores of 40 and below, because these are the people that these policies are going to impact the most.
Right. And then just like she said, their C3 money was here. C3 money came through, but C3 is you cannot be Democratic or Republican. You're nonpartisan. So guess what? The C3 did their job, because guess what? A lot of people split their ticket. Slockton won her race. She lost the race. There's a lot of split ticket going on down there. A lot of people voted uncommitted. So civic engagement and civic work was doing. They did their job. The factor is that C4 dollars, candidate back dollars for those smaller organizations did not show up at all. And that's the problem. You can't have C3 doing the work, because C3 is going to stick to policy, civics, all that for the people. We don't get the people educated. Mm-hmm. C4 job is, okay, your job is to come in and endorse the candidate and back the candidate on those groups who were knocking on those doors, doing the groundwork, and they did it. And so a lot of times strategists used to use those both components. They're not supposed to, but they didn't do it this year. And they try to do it last year, but they didn't do it with funding enough, where now it caught up on them. So again, you got to look at the strategists and say, what were you doing? What were you doing? What were your antennas, as they call it? You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. The data doesn't lie.
Well, I think the thing is that in the few minutes we have left. So if an organization is looking to continue to do the work, to put boots on the ground, one of the things that I know, with myself and Andre Hunter and, with us with Detroit Downriver A. Philip Randolph Institute, we try and do everything we can to make certain that we get boots on the ground. As we know, you being, in terms of, say, assisting us with some of the funding to do some of the work that we've done, we had to make sure that we took pictures to show, you know, because that's what we do. One of the things that Andrea always tells everybody, make sure you take pictures. Just like when we went down to Georgia, you know, to take pictures of what we were doing when we were knocking on doors, letting people know about they could get out there and register to vote down in Georgia when they had that special election between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. So, you know, we had to let people know you had to be registered at least a month prior to the election to be able to vote. And a lot of people didn't understand that. So that's one of the things that we do. It's not just so much to promote, like with us, because we're nonpartisan, we don't promote candidates, you know, but we promote the opportunity to tell people to get out to vote. And in making certain that people understand when the election date is, and letting them know about the polling precincts being open and where they can go to vote at if they want to do the early voting. So just so you know, I'm preaching to the choir because you know what all, you know, is entailed with that. But the question I want to ask, you know, both of you is that there's a lot of organizations that would like to continue doing the work. And what are some of the qualifications that an organization would need to do to make sure they continue to do the work that organizations like yours will fund?
Well, an organization like mine would fund anyone that's doing any type of civic engagement. And when I say civic engagement, that means educating your community around policies that impact them. Not being afraid to use technology, because if it's not done with data, it does not exist. You can take all the pictures in the world, but if you're not using our tools to track the data, then we cannot then aggregate that and fundraise and get more money to support your organization.
Was that what is called VOATZ, VOATZ? Because I think that's what one of the things we had to do. When we were doing election protection, we would go out to the different organizations and different polling sites and document whether or not if they were in compliance with making certain that, you know, they had the signage up, you know, let people know where you had to vote at and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's more democracy work. Just making sure that people do not have a barrier to going into their polling place, and then making sure that they're accessible for individuals with disabilities. So those are different tenets, right? And I tell every one of my nonprofits that all of your work is tied to policy. Figure out that policy, figure out who is chairing that division, and then go and talk to them to make sure that your issue can be uplifted. And so as long as it's around, as long as you have some tenet where you're trying to register people to vote so that they can support your organization, there's funding out there for you.
And just like I said, again, some folks are RC3. We're going to be continuing doing work in schools, doing their civic engagement, how they're going to continue to do, and get ready for, you know, this election coming up. And that's the C3 work that they're going to be tasked to do. And, you know, C4, we're going to be looking a little different. So it'll be an interesting time. So, but we're going to be ready to go either way. So people will get educated.
Well, we've got a couple minutes left. Any closing comments from either of you, real quick?
I do have one. Michigan is June 30th this year, since the laws have passed. If you get your ID, if you're getting an ID, you're getting a driver's license, you'll be automatically registered to vote. That system goes on June 30th. So my message to a lot of these funders out here: voter registration is not an issue in Michigan. Getting out to vote is an issue. So I'm asking funders right now that those are, if your work is including GOTV, get out to vote, that means constant contact civic engagement. That does not mean a voter registration. Michigan has an automatic voter registration law that kicks in June 30th. If you have an ID, you're automatically registered to vote. And so the thing is that we're getting people out to vote is our issue. So try to tell your funders or those who are on the chair, stop doing the simple work that's already been done. The same model that 08 that worked in 08 does not work right now, and we need for people to programs to get people out.
My thing is, even when we are getting people registered to vote or getting people to come out to vote, the people that we're voting for, they need to do their dang on job.
That's
okay. All this stuff that happened in lame duck should not have happened. And those bills that people have put tirelessly their time and their feet and efforts into, they should have voted on, and people should not have been sitting out and not coming out to vote with all of this work that people do. People are putting their blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that we have policy that positively impacts our community. And to spit in our face and slap us in our face and not come out to vote, we gonna talk about that. You ain't gonna have your office next come round.
Well, you've heard that from Jacinda Cason, from Norman Clement. You're watching Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we appreciate you, and we hope that you both and your families have a very, very happy new year. Peace.